If you've ever felt like you can't hear yourself think, like you're constantly reacting, constantly needed, and constantly on, today is the episode for you, my friend, because I want to share something personal. It's about what I learned on a solo cabin trip I took for my birthday last year, and the three things that came out of that honestly have changed how I live my everyday life. If you're tired of people pleasing, caring too much, and wondering why peace still feels so hard to hold on to, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Lori, mom, former people pleaser, and your boundaries coach. Here we talk about how to protect your peace, set healthier boundaries, and get clear on what actually matters so that you can build a life that feels lighter, calmer, and more satisfying. So let's stop the chaos for a minute, moms, catch our breath, and get into this next episode. Welcome back to Healthy Boundaries for Moms. So last year for my birthday, I did something I had never done before. Y'all, I got online and I booked a cabin just for myself. And I didn't realize how much I needed that. No one asking me questions, no decisions for anyone else, no schedule to manage except my own. And even the drive there felt different. So picture this. I had my 90s country music blaring. I had the moonroof open, just driving, singing, and enjoying it. And I remember thinking, I really, really like this. Not because it was anything fancy, but this was just for me. This was me. And when I got to the cabin, the host had left a bottle of wine that was waiting just for me. And I remember thinking, this is so peaceful. Y'all, it was quiet. It was beautiful. I could just be. Now, I will say, nighttime in the woods by yourself is slightly uncomfortable. I did check several of the doors multiple times to make sure they were locked. But even that I handled. And what surprised me most wasn't just that I enjoyed it, it was what I realized about myself while I was there. Because I thought I was just going there for a needed break. But what I actually needed was the space to hear myself. So one of the things that really stood out to me on this trip is just how uncomfortable it felt at first to just be with myself. And not because anything was wrong, but because I just wasn't used to it. It just seemed a little awkward, to be honest. And I think we've created lives where we're constantly responding, right? We're reacting to things, we're checking on things, we're always moving, or we're always waiting on something to tell us what to do, to get that information in and then move on that, like what to think, what to feel. And when all of that goes quiet, it feels awkward. Because honestly, being with ourselves is not a muscle that we've been using. We are so used to all the schedules and the routines and people needing us and things coming at us from every direction that when none of that is there, we don't even know what we want. I remember sitting there thinking, do I want to go inside or do I want to go outside? Do I want to make a fire or not? And what do I want for lunch? And none of those decisions had anything to do with anyone else. And it wasn't, again, like, what does my family need or what's easiest for everybody else or what's on the agenda. It was just, what do I want? And that felt unfamiliar. It wasn't hard and it wasn't complicated. Again, just unfamiliar because I realized I haven't been practicing that. Because we live in such a reactive society, guys. We're constantly consuming, scrolling, responding, adjusting. So over time, we lose the simple ability to just sit with ourselves and make simple internal decisions. So then when it comes to make bigger decisions, we wonder why we second guess everything. And it's not because we're incapable, but because we're just out of practice listening to ourselves. And I think a lot of us don't need more information, right? We have plenty. We just need more time to practice being with ourselves. And this is something we've even seen in the Bible. In 1 Kings 19:11-12, it says, "The Lord said, 'Go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by.' Then a great and powerful wind tore through the mountains apart and shattered the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper." And I think a lot of us are missing that right there. Not because God isn't speaking, but because our lives are so loud, we would not be able to hear that whisper from God. And I heard a quote once that said, "Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you." So yes, we are like that computer that needs to unplug and shut down and restart. And that is what the cabin gave me. I finally got to unplug long enough to hear myself again. The cabin gave me built-in space with no noise and no constant input. No need to react to my family, okay? And I could finally hear my own thoughts. And I think this is where a lot of us are stuck. Again, not because we don't have answers, but because we don't have the space. And one of the biggest things I journaled while I was there was this: I actually trust myself. Because along the way, I've noticed when I really look at it, my choices are usually pretty wise. And there is a reason I do what I do. So in my journal, I underlined, I can trust myself. And that was huge. But friends, I don't think I would have gotten this in my everyday life because I don't always listen to that because I'm busy or distracted or talking and taking in everybody's input, right? And I think a lot of us do this. We second guess ourselves, not because we're incapable, but because we're disconnected from ourselves. Now, here's the part I really, really want you to hear. I did not need a cabin to experience that, okay? Y'all don't need to go book a cabin. I mean, I think that's a great experience for you to have, but the cabin isn't why, and it's not the only way to remove the noise. What I actually needed was to start building that space into my everyday life. So instead of waiting for 1 weekend a year to reset, I started thinking in terms of check-ins. So let's take our first check-in. This is our daily check-in. It's about 5 minutes. And this is about just asking, what went well today? Did I take care of myself at all? So these are all your needs that you need to do to take care of yourself. And what do I need right now? And this is also where I want you to celebrate any wins that you had that day. Because if you don't pause and acknowledge it, your brain will not count it. Now, let's move on to your quarterly check-in. This is where you ask, am I still aligned with my goals? Do I even want what I'm working toward? And when I say, do you want what you're working toward? Sometimes we don't even remember why we started working towards something. We're not even re-choosing it and making sure that's what we want. And also I want you to examine what's working and what is not. So a quarterly check-in is going to be about every 3 months. So this is a really good time to look at all of that. Now, the cabin level is going to be your annual reset. This is where you're going to go into that deeper space to reconnect, to unplug, to reflect, to reset your direction for the year. So definitely make sure that you plan these check-ins, okay? And again, you don't need a cabin to find yourself. You need consistent space to hear yourself. That cabin trip didn't give me something new. It reminded me of something I already had, which was clarity, wisdom, and an ability to trust myself. And the goal isn't to wait for 1 weekend a year to feel that. It is to build it into your everyday life. So here's what I want you to do today. You're going to take 5 minutes. No phone, no noise. Okay? And just ask yourself, what do I actually need right now? So this is what you're going to do today. So guys, please take advantage of those 3 check-ins, the daily, the quarterly, and the annual. I think it will be very life-changing, and it will allow you to hear yourself think and for you to hear what God has to say to you. So I want to take this moment to give a special shout out to my son, William Grimes, who is the editor and producer of this podcast behind the scenes, bringing this podcast to you twice a week. And he has worked on it so diligently. So again, thank you, Will, for all you have done to make this podcast successful. You surely have made your mom proud. Hey friend, I hope this episode helped you. If so, come join us in the Healthy Boundaries for Moms Facebook group. That's where we go deeper, share what's working, and support each other in real life. And if you haven't already, hit follow and leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts. It helps more moms find this message. Now friend, go say no to what's stealing your peace and say yes to something that you really need. And I'll meet you back here in the next episode.